WELSTech is a bi-weekly podcast exploring the intersections of technology and ministry. It is part of the podcast network sponsored by WELS, the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod. Our show today is hosted by Martin Spriggs and Sally Draper. Welcome back, everybody, to WELSTech. This is episode 718, and we're recording on Friday, February 9th. My name is Martin Spriggs, and this is a show about technology and ministry and where those two intersect. Joining me as usual on a beautiful Friday morning, Sally Draper.
Yeah, I'm out here with this lovely sunset across the Golden Gate Bridge on the West Coast, it seems. Kind of an odd background for me today, but happy to be joining you. I'm really coming to you from North Mankato, not nearly as exciting as my background
No big
appears.
bridges like that in North Mankato.
No, just kind of
Beautiful
small bridges.
sunsets, though, sometimes.
Sometimes.
And we are recording on Friday, which is a little bit different. So we're kind of wrapping up our week with an episode of WELSTech. This is a neat one, Sally. We had a nice interview we're going to play here in a minute, talking about a concept that maybe we've just brushed over a little bit in previous episodes, but I think now we're going to devote some time talking about the use of webinars in ministry. And that's kind of exciting because webinars are very easy to do these days. It wasn't always that way. You had to sign up for sometimes expensive services, and not everybody was as comfortable joining a webinar as they are these days. So it seems like the time is right.
It does indeed. I was just kind of marveling at some of my experiences around webinars. I just happened to be part of the LWMS National Communication Committee when COVID-19 hit. Like, I'd just gotten on the committee, and then all of a sudden they had to juggle their convention and everything. And basically they did convention by doing webinars. They had a panel of people speaking or whatever, and a whole bunch of people watching, and it's a very one-way thing. But yeah, people learned during the pandemic about what webinars are and their value and their real-time interaction and stuff, lots of chats going on and things like that. So
yeah. We should probably talk a little bit about the difference between a webinar and, let's say, like a Zoom call or a Teams call, video conferencing. Mostly the same technology, except as you mentioned, it's more of a one way, in the way that, and sometimes more for larger audiences. So there's not the chaos that might ensue if you had a large number of people, on a Zoom call where everybody's speaking over each other and background noises and whatever. Webinar is more of a controlled environment where there is a speaker or set of speakers who have an agenda and have maybe a series of slides or talking points. And then the communication from the audience is usually through some kind of chat or discussion board or queue that they, put a question in. And sometimes there is a moderator bringing those questions to the floor for the experts, so to speak, to answer. So that's kind of, I think, the difference between a webinar and just a regular old video conference. And that opens it up to a number of different kinds of topics or use cases probably for them. We're going to be talking with Rachel Holderson in a minute about one use. But Sally, in your mind, what are webinars good for, at least as it relates to ministry?
Well, I can see it being used for things like Bible studies or even congregational type meetings where they're trying to accommodate people that can't be there in person, doing it online where it's not just a free for all, like you said, but bringing together a group of people just to kind of share a message and have some feedback from them through the chats and questions and things like that. Perhaps training. Let's say there's new policies for early childhood or something. It might be easier to pull together the early childhood coordinator might put together a webinar for their district or something that allows people to come in and watch the training and hear the information being shared, maybe by a panel of people or whatever it might be.
Yep. Those are great use cases. I think when you start doing bigger events versus kind of the smaller, more intimate Bible study where there's a Bible class leader and then just basically all the participants, is if you're in a larger setting, you have to kind of be thinking about audio and video, lighting, um, capturing the audio maybe from the audience if there is both a live audience and a webinar audience. So you kind of have to think about or accommodate how you're getting sound into the webinar itself too. So it gets a little bit more complicated, not undoable, certainly doable. The technology is there. It's just a consideration for sure. Just any time when you're wanting to include an audience that may not be able to be there in person or doesn't want to be there in person, does expand the communications opportunities, and I think that's always a good thing. Reach more and more people with these tools that we've got. There are a couple of things that I was thinking of that you probably should plan ahead for. One would be promotion. You have to figure out how to get the word out, and there are different ways to do that. And it's no different than any other kind of thing that you want to promote. Except webinars do allow you to take signups, so you kind of know who's going to be there, and you can limit or restrict who can attend if you want to do that. So if there is a sign up, you advertise it via a sign up form. And then it comes with, at least Zoom and Teams do this, where there's a reminder that gets sent out. Hey, don't forget tomorrow, it's coming up at 2 o'clock. And then a link that is provided right in that email follow-up communication. And even after the event has occurred, if it's recorded, then that same registrant can be communicated with as a follow-up, and then maybe a link to the event itself, especially if they weren't maybe even able to attend, they could view a recorded version.
Mhm. Good news is webinars and meetings or video conferencing have one thing in common, and that's the equipment that you use. And
Hmm.
pretty much everyone's equipped these days with the kind of things you need. You need a webcam of some sort. Many people have them built into their laptops or their mobile devices, even. And then you need a microphone, again, often built in, but you can definitely up the ante for that. And then expand with the considerations Martin was speaking about earlier, that if you
Hmm.
needed to mic your audience as well or other participants in the webinar. But
Yep.
fairly standard equipment required and not a big expense to do that part of it. Licensing wise, Martin, you're probably more familiar. Does it cost money to do webinars versus a free, say, Zoom account or whatever?
I think there are levels. It depends on audience, the number of people in the audience. I'm not sure if there is a free version of Zoom, the webinar. We have larger audiences sometimes, so I know we pay for a webinar license. So you'd probably want to investigate that based on the size. I think there are some free tools out there too. So just look around and um, I think we can put together a list that would include some different options too, that would afford some free options. And normally those are going to be for the smaller audiences, probably under 25, something like that. So one last thing, maybe before we jump into our interview, which I was really excited, or I'm really excited to share with you. I think Rachel has some good stuff to say about Wells Women Ministry and their use of webinars. Is the concept of supporting materials, the ability to provide content ahead and after a webinar. I think there is a lot to be said for adding more value to any kind of meeting with that supporting material. Maybe that's other um, content, whether that's slides ahead of time, or maybe it's different videos that you've done that support it or follow on after it. So I think those are all important to consider. What goes around the experience? Maybe it's a survey. and or other supporting material to give a fuller experience to it rather than just that one point in time where you're doing it. So lots of things you can throw at it at that point.
Okay. So yes, just like you've tipped your hat several times,
Mhm.
exciting interview we had with Rachel Halderson, and I probably messed up her name as I was introducing her, so you guys can
I
forgive
think
me in
you got it
advance
right
for that.
there. So
Yeah,
point
I had
scored.
practiced it, said it a million times in my head, but you'll see how well I do. Joining us on WELSTech today is Rachel Halderson, coming from the lovely state of Texas. Welcome, Rachel, and my apologies for butchering your last name because I'm really bad at that. Um,
You were
welcome.
close.
Awesome. You can straighten me out. Rachel's part of WELS Women's Ministry Group and specifically serves as Congregational Ministries team leader. That's quite a mouthful, Rachel. Welcome and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Rachel Halderson, and I am married to my favorite pastor, Wayne. We live out in East Texas. We've been here for about 5.5 years. We have two kids, a daughter who's 17 and a son who's 23. And yeah, I have served on women's ministry now for a couple years in this role. It's been exciting and challenging and a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Rachel, women's ministry is, in my opinion, one of the great success stories in our synod. My daughter goes to the conferences. She was one at LPS and just comes home raving about the good things that are going on there, the excitement and the buzz. Tell us a little bit about specifically your work and role in women's ministry and how you kind of got connected with it, and tell us a little bit about that backstory.
Okay. So Sally Valesky used to be in my position, and I've known her for years. And so she was the one that approached me about the possibility of following in her shoes and taking over this role. We like to call ourselves the Congo team for short, which, yeah, we think sounds a little bit more fun. So our team is all about the relationship and the connection we get to have with people, regular people in the pews. And so as I get to know people or they come to me asking for advice or questions, I can connect them with some of the resources that women's ministry offers and put those two together. Or maybe we don't have a resource that people are looking for. And so I can go back to the team and say, okay, guys, the resource team, and I can say, this is what people are, this is what I'm hearing. So I kind of bridge that gap there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Today on Wells Tech, we're talking about webinars specifically, which is what kind of brought us to you and the fact that you were a host recently of a webinar for Wells Women's Ministry. So, is webinars a platform that you guys have been using for a while? And what kind of benefits are you seeing there with doing webinars?
So we've done 4 webinars so far in the last year and a half. And that was out of an effort to make that connection I was talking about. And I strive in the group to try to find ways to bring women across the synod together. And with technology today, I just thought a webinar might be that ticket. I know so many lay women out there in our synod that are intelligent and creative and innovative and just excited about what they're doing, whether it's in their life or their church or their community. And I really wanted to give them a platform where they could speak to that and share what they're doing, their experience with whoever wants to listen, regardless of where you live or your background, small church, big church. And we've found, I think, really great success in that, in bringing people together and hopefully igniting a conversation that maybe they wouldn't otherwise have had. That's my prayer anyway.
Yeah, that's a great story. And maybe tell us a little bit about, if you didn't have this tool of webinars, what would your other options be?
Well, what we have been doing and what Sally did for years was she would offer Tuesdays as an open invitation for people to call her on the phone.
Oh, okay.
And so back in the day, that's what you did. You called her on the phone, and which I'm sure I benefited from myself.
Hmm.
It's lovely. But then we were looking to take that into, something else. And so when I came on board, I started using Zoom calls. And so at least I could give people the option of booking a time with me on the phone if they still want to do that, or if they want to do a Zoom call. So we call that connection call. And you can still do that with me through wells.net/women. You can make an appointment, call a connection call.
Awesome. So how is a webinar different than a Zoom call? Some people maybe have not been in webinars. I know COVID has introduced conference calls and Zoom to a lot of us that didn't maybe have it before, but how is webinars the next step?
Well, okay, so you can watch without people seeing you. I think when you're on a
Okay.
call, you see us all. But on a webinar, you only see the people that you want to be seen. We call them panelists. And so you have the host that runs kind of the behind the scenes, stuff that can manipulate all that. But then you have the panelists that you can see their screen, you can hear them. And then those that are watching are silently watching, and so you can have that chat function open, which we do. We try to we have the Q&A open where they can specifically post their questions, and so it streamlines it so that it's not quite so crazy with all these participants or people speaking. It's more of a controlled environment where you're really focusing on what the panelists are saying.
Okay. So on the technical and logistical side, it sounds like a lot goes into this. Do you have to have a college degree in Zoom to host one of these meetings, or how does that work?
So I have people.
Excellent answer.
Because that is not my forte. Anyway, yeah. So I work a lot with Sarah Praber at Senate office.
In our
She
communications area, huh?
Yes, she is
Good.
my right-hand gal, and I'll tell her my vision or what features I want available or whatever it is, and she makes it happen. She is always there silently behind the scenes during the webinar too. I will send her a list of resources that we'll be referring to during the webinar, and so as that comes up in conversation, she'll type that into the chat. She's ready to go. And then meanwhile, because I can't keep an eye on the chat and the Q&A while I'm having a conversation, I have a team member that is doing that for me. So she's keeping an eye on the chat. She's also keeping an eye on the Q&A so that when there's maybe a lull in the conversation, or I see that there's a lot of questions in the Q&A, I can go to her and she'll prioritize what we need to get to. So yeah, it's invaluable, the help that
Awesome.
we get.
Awesome.
So is the whole, so to speak, playbook open to you? Are there topics that are all topics kind of fair game in a webinar? Are there some things that play better in a webinar setting? How do you decide what to do, what to talk about?
That's a good question. So I'll have my team brainstorm ideas. Look, if we're interested in discussing something or finding out more, chances are other people are too.
Right.
So between the team putting together their interests and then the exec team of women's ministry putting together their ideas, and we try to make things cohesive. So if we're going to be covering a certain topic or theme at an upcoming conference, or there's a theme running through the newsletter, or we try to keep it cohesive. So there's that. But we also are connected to the leadership at the Synod. And so we're regularly in communication with them. What is leadership in the Synod hearing that they from regular people, that they want to hear, or issues that they're having, or whatever the case may be. And finally, it's just the open doors God gives. I really lean heavily on him that, I allow his word to guide to guide me, and the open doors that he sends and conversations with people or possible panelists or whatever. So it all, in the 4 that we've had so far, and we're working on a 5th, it all has just, by the grace of God, come together.
That's
Nice.
awesome. I'll just say a quick shout out to the fact that you had such a diverse panel in this last webinar that I attended. That's really cool to see women from all over the synod, when many times women are just familiar with their little congregation or maybe their LWMS circuit or whatever it is. But to hear firsthand from people all over the synod was a really cool experience. I thought that was really well done. So what kind of response are you getting? Are people attending? Are they following up with you? Interactions, things like that?
Well, Sarah would have all the stats, and I should have maybe gotten that from her beforehand, but anyway, it seems to be going really well, that every time we offer one, more people are there live. And so this last one, it was consistently around 220, 225, which is pretty amazing to
Wow.
hold that number for over an hour. I did go over an hour. Um, and then there's also, it's always posted later after the fact, usually the next day. And so there are people watching after the fact. So we want to make these webinars also as resources so that you can revisit it if you have watched it, or if you haven't watched it, you still can at your convenience. We had a lot of watch parties this time. And so, so there were different groups around the synod that, we're watching together, which I love, because then we were really encouraging, okay, you're watching it, you're watching someone else have this conversation. Now jump to it, apply it to your church, to your situation, to your culture, to your community, and keep it going. And so, yeah, that's really exciting. Really, only the Lord knows really what, will come of it. And I'm okay with that.
That's great. So you mentioned more webinars in the future. Can you tell us a little bit about what's on the horizon just for women's ministry in general?
Absolutely. So for the webinar, I'm currently working on a mental health themed webinar. And this one will be a little bit different because I'm not searching for panelists like I usually do, which is actually the hardest part about the webinar, is finding panelists. And thank you for mentioning how diverse they were, because I try my best to do that. And I only know so many people in my pool. And so, yeah, I enjoy trying to find that variety. But this will be 2 counselors from Christian Family
Right.
Solutions.
And with solutions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. And we will be just talking about mental health. We're putting that together right now. It'll be in May for Mental Health Awareness Month. So that'll be coming up in the beginning of May. And I'm excited about that because I think, I have a lot of questions. I'm sure other people have questions too. And so we'll just be exploring that more. And then of course, it is our conference year. And so this summer, at the end of July, we'll be having another conference. And this will be in Pewaukee at the Ingleside Hotel. So it's going to be a different venue than what we've had before, because quite frankly, we've outgrown the campuses that we have previously been hosted at. So I'm excited. I really do think this will be the best one yet. We'll be studying Acts, and all the workshops and speakers will be speaking to that. And really looking forward to that one.
And that's end of July, I think, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. That's neat.
Very good.
Look forward to hear all the positive feedback from that too.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, thanks so much for taking some time with us and for the work that you do. That's an exciting area of ministry to me, and I'm glad that there are people like you and the team that you work with, using technology to advance that message, and that's neat for sharing it too. I hope that this is an encouragement to others to use the technology and be as excited as you guys are about your ministry.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our thanks to Rachel. Both exciting things going on in WELS Women's Ministry. That is, and I said it in the discussion, I think a true WELS success story. They're doing great things, and it's awesome that she was able to take some time to share their use of webinars, which seems to be going super well.
Yeah, definitely a neat topic. But, for me, Martin, after we had that discussion with Rachel, I just really reflected on the fact of God's people being part of the body. Here's
Hmm.
just a volunteer down in Texas, and she's doing these amazing things and coordinating these amazing things. The webinar itself, hopefully you'll have a chance to tune in. You can watch the recording of the one that they did most recently. Had people on it from Canada to, I want to say, Minneapolis. They had someone else, I think, from Texas. There were people from all over
Yeah.
and coordinated that effort. And it just is a really neat thing to see God's people at work in that way.
Yeah, and there's no reason you couldn't have an international audience pretty easily, other than,
Sure.
time zone differences you'd have to account for, but, that's kinda
Yeah,
neat, so
international
you mentioned.
panelists.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You
Mhm.
mentioned the, webinar series, that'll be our ministry resource today, right?
Yeah, great lead in, and I was excited because they've done such a good job with the webinar. I sat in on the one that was most recent. I'm going to do a quick screen share. We'll see how easy that is. Um, but I think they have maybe 4 or 5 that they've done most recently. And this one, reviving relationships through biblical hospitality, that's the one that they did in January. And you'll see a full description of that, as well as I think they have the panelists listed. Um, I'm going to come back to Lori Ryan in a few minutes, but you can see then at the bottom of the page that they have 4 webinars total that are archived where you can go and watch about Advent by Candlelight or Prayer Change, next generation, biblical hospitality, all kinds of great topics that they're covering in Women's Ministry, and they're really timeless. The things that they're sharing can definitely apply to today, for sure. Check it out.
Excellent, excellent. Again, thanks, Rachel, for your time with us. All
Mhm.
right, Sally, let's move on to our picks of the week.
And who do I have to thank but Rachel and Lori, who I mentioned was one of the panelists on the webinar that I watched, because as soon as they were done presenting, actually, maybe while they were presenting, I had the book, The 2 Hour Cocktail Party, in my Amazon cart, and I got it within a couple of days. Isn't that fun how the camera really messes with that? There it is, 2 Hour
Like
Cocktail
it.
Party. It's a book by Nick Gray, available on Amazon. And you might think right away that title might be a little off-putting to you. Who knows if you want to have a cocktail party or not? But it's really not meant to describe the types of drinks you serve at your party or anything like that. It's more meant to be a description of a type of party that's relatively short and kind of a mixer of interesting people getting to know each other. And what Nick Gray does for you is he lays out a real systematic way to have a very successful party. And he's had the book out for a year or so, and he has people posting their party pictures and things like that. So it's definitely gotten success. He has a website called How to Host a Party, party.pro, where he gets into a lot of it. He has a lot of blog posts and things about hosting parties, a lot of YouTube videos. He has a YouTube channel. He's really great at that. So why does Wells Technology care if you're hosting cocktail parties or not?
Mhm.
Great question. And that's what I got from the Wells Women's Ministry webinar. One of the people in the webinar, Lori, and I forget her last name, I want to get it right. Lori Ryan, who's in the Minneapolis area, I want to say, New Hope, Minnesota. Um, she talked about having kind of a background where she and her husband, their entire married lives, have enjoyed hosting parties and getting together interesting people and having fun events. Um, and they came across this book and they decided to try this specifically within their church. So the people they were inviting to the party were members of theirs. Perhaps they served together on the church council or something to that effect. And they took Nick's, pattern of establishing a party. It basically provides some mixers and allows people to kind of get to know each other in a more structured way. They took that and had amazing success with it. They were really pleased with it, and they've had several of them. Other people have hosted them, and they've realized that it's a really great way to engage people in your community who aren't necessarily part of your church community. So, a mixture of church members and non-church members at a party like this begins to seed those sow those seeds
Sow the
of
seed,
friendship.
yes.
That's it. Sow the seeds of friendship evangelism, where you're making connections. The subtitle of the book is "How to Build Big Relationships with Small Gatherings," and that's really what they've seen kind of come out of this is some really great relationships. I will have a link in the show notes to the book and the blog post and things like that. But I just want to, kind of challenge you. I'm looking forward to hosting my first 2-hour cocktail party in the near future, and perhaps it's something worth trying to just open your home and get to know a few new people or get to know them better, perhaps.
Have you completed the book? Have you read the book?
I haven't completed it, although it's not a heavy read. We've actually had some
Mhm.
sickness in my family, so I haven't made it all the way through yet. But my goal is to have a party before the end of February, maybe even a leap year party. So we'll see. You can
Oh,
pick whatever
yeah.
theme you want,
Yeah.
and just get together some people and have a lot of fun.
Probably some application there for those congregations who do small group ministry. I think
Yeah.
every one of those could be kind of classified as a little party. So that's neat.
Right, and he gives you, mixer type
Hmm.
questions and things like that. The classic one that he uses, as an example for the first question that you do with the group is, "What did you have for breakfast?" or "What's your favorite breakfast?" or something to that
Hmm.
effect, and that kinda opens up the can of all kinds of options, and you go from there. People get interested, they get to talking, so that's a
Nice.
good thing. Mhm.
Okay. We're good. My pick of the week is actually I'm holding it up here for those of you looking on screen. It's from a company called Smartish. They make kind of cables and cable organizers, and this is what they call a magic cord or magnetic cord organizer. So, those of you listening at home, basically, it looks like a little pin cushion. It's a magnet with a rubber base covered with fabric. And what it's used for is, when you've got those cords snaking up through the back, the back of your desk or whatever, that you're plugging into your USB devices, your speaker, your computer, whatever. And then when you unplug them, they're always kind of falling back or they're always in disarray, and you're having to wrap them around different things. You tape them on there, whatever. What this allows you to do is you just set it on your desk, and the metal end of whatever cable you're trying to wrangle just kind of hooks on or attaches magnetically to this smartish device, this cord organizer. So it'll fit probably three of them. This is a smaller one, um, but it's a strong enough magnet. And depending on what the end of your cable is made of, if it's metal, it'll stick right on here. They also make little cord wraps that have a magnet in them, so you can kind of wrap them around the end of the cable as well, so that they'll sit on here as well. So, gone are the days where your cables are falling back behind the desk. You've got to get into the desk and snake them back up. But you just wrap them right on here. It's great for like laptop power cords or USB
Oh
cables,
my goodness.
because you're taking your laptop with you, you're unplugging it, and where does the cord go that's attached to the power brick, behind your desk? No longer behind the desk. It just kind of snaps magnetically to this little cable organizer. And then when you come back to your desk, you just pull it off of here, plug it in, and you're good to go. Kind of stylish. They make these in different colors as well. So this one happens to be a gray one, but I think they have black, and there are other colors that would match your decor. So those of you that are really frustrated with losing your cables behind your desk, this is a good solution. So it's a company called Smartish.
That's pretty sweet find, Martin, and they have pink and teal, so
Oh, yeah. Yep, yep,
yeah,
yep.
got it covered there.
Another product they make, this is kind of a bonus pick. They make a cable, a braided cable in different lengths with different ends on them. So if you're tired of having every cable known to man because you've got different connectors, micro USB, you've got a lightning connector, or a USB-C. They
Mhm.
make them with this little attachment so that you can kind of plug in with one cable yet, the kind of end that you need to make things work for you. So they make these kind of things too. And I think in kind of matching cable colors. So good company.
Huh. It's interesting because we always share links, obviously, on the show notes, and so we build those links in a OneNote, and when I open this up, one thing that really struck me, and this is very off topic, but it actually went to the website for Smartish, which, these days, so often I just go to Amazon. I never see like real
Mm,
company websites or order directly from a company. But it's kind of a good reminder that oftentimes they might even have better pricing or whatever. That
better
you
selection.
definitely kind
Yeah.
of go to the source and
Hmm.
look for things.
Yep. Yep.
So,
In fact, I think I did. I don't know that these are available on Amazon. Maybe they are,
okay,
but maybe not all of the selection that you've got elsewhere. So that's my
interesting.
pick.
All
All
right.
right, Sally. Community news and feedback.
Well, today I wanted to mention a couple of things that that have been discussed over on the Wells Intersections page. That's a group page on Facebook that's moderated by retired Pastor Jim Aderman, and he's always finding interesting articles and things to share there. Um, the first one that I wanted to talk about was something he shared. Boy, this is so fun to coordinate. You can see how uncoordinated I am. I'm sharing my screen right now. Um, was something about online discipleship courses. So he found a online discipleship resource called Practicing the Way, and it's a really um, nice format. That's best I can say about it. It's just got a lot of thought behind the interface and the things that you do.
Visually
It
appealing for sure. Yeah.
that's the word I'm looking for. Excellent. It has a course with it. It has practice things that you can do for 9 course spiritual disciples. Um, just different things that you would be interested in studying deeper and practicing around things like prayer and generosity and service. Just laid out very appealing. And the discussion was pretty favorable. There were a couple of pastors that chimed in that they had looked at it, and it was um, very much better than just watch a 45-minute video and see if you can find the handout to print beforehand and things like that. And Pastor Peter Hagen actually contributed that, you know, if people are doing things at this level, we certainly can get the same kind of training and build similar things. Is that important? Are we neglecting spiritual growth and instruction capabilities because we aren't doing it with the tools that are available to us, and producing things that are more well thought out than just um, hacking together a video or whatever. So I thought it was an interesting discussion and definitely interesting. The group behind it is called The Circle, which, Martin, that kind of rang a bell with me. We've talked about The Circle for
Circle
many
group, or
years.
yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
uh-huh. So that's who's kind of behind that. And yeah, interesting stuff. The other thing from Wells Intersections that really caught my eye, was something about AI tool usage. Pastor Aderman, and I think the article is right here, where he says, if you don't have an AI tool use policy, perhaps it's time to consider one for your organization. And this is actually a template that's available out there that you can, kind of plug and play into their AI policy template. Pastor Aderman also said, maybe you just want to ask a chat GPT AI generating type device to give you a policy based on your
Mhm.
organization needs or whatever. But Martin, I don't know if you have thoughts or ideas around organizations, our churches and schools needing AI policies Anything
I would think
like that?
definitely in the school settings, because that seems to be, as we've been talking about in our series on AI in the classroom, that is definitely something that needs to be addressed. But yeah, tool usage from student perspective, teacher or faculty perspective, for sure. And then I know in Wells intersections, they've talked about AI usage in ministry for sermon prep or augmentation or whatever. So I think it's not a bad thing to think through and
Mhm.
make sure that you're treating it, as you should. So good. I think that's
Okay.
a good reminder.
Yeah, I thought so too. So that's
Policies are
what we have.
just such a pain to write. Nobody likes writing policies.
Yeah.
And AI seems like a friend, maybe a worthy friend in that endeavor to write the policies you need to write, because it's got access to many policies worldwide in different contexts. And AI seems to be maybe a tool that could help us do something that we really don't like to do.
Mhm.
So,
Good thinking.
um, Sally, tell the good people, how they can join our conversation if they want to give us some community news or feedback.
Well, it all centers around the website, wellstech.wells.net. That's where you're gonna find all our shows posted all the way back to what, 2008, Martin?
Is that,
2007, I think.
yeah, I lose track.
And yeah, you can find all the different show notes around those. So if you're looking for particular links or things that we discuss in the show, that's going to all be there on the website.
Mhm.
Also, along the top right of the website, there are links to our presence on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram. You can leave us messages and comment on our shows and other things there. We would absolutely love to hear from you in a voicemail as well. And we make that easy on the right side of the website. You can click on send a voicemail and use your computer to actually record a message to us if you're so inclined. We would love to hear from you. Incorporate your ideas and your experiences into WELSTech.
Yeah, one thing, we had such a great interview today. If you've got people that you think we would enjoy talking to, or you'd like to hear us talk to, or that other people would benefit from hearing from, let us know those too. Those ideas are super helpful. The hive mind that is Wells Tech would, I think, benefit all of us if we are able to explore new areas and new expertise. That's always something we're looking for. So.
Mhm.
Sally, what are we going to talk about the next time we gather together?
Well, that's a great question. If you have any ideas for that, you can let me know. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. The next time we gather is gonna be on Thursday, February 29th. That's a little bit of a stretch for us, but we thought it was worth it since this is a leap year. And goodness gracious, we're gonna dig up something we haven't talked about in 4 years, and we're gonna talk about it on leap day, and it's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to, celebrating leap year with you, Martin.
We should probably go back in time and look at what we were talking about 4 years ago and maybe 4 years before that. And 4 years,
Yeah.
well, we can't go that far back. Oh, I guess we
Yeah, we
could.
can.
Yeah, we can. We can
Yeah,
go back.
like
We can go back
16.
4 leap years. So
Yes. Crazy, isn't it?
that'll be fun. See what that brings to us.
The
So
time
good. I'm
capsule,
looking
leap
forward
year
to it.
time capsule.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. We're so happy that you decided to spend a little time with us. Invite your friends, family, whomever, and contribute to the conversation. We love having you guys around. So thanks everybody. Blessings on your Lent. Ash Wednesday's coming just around the corner here. So your walk to the cross. Blessings on that. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.